welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be teaching you one of my favorite yoga poses ever, which is dancer pose. Dancer pose is super beautiful, but it requires quite a bit of warm up. So we're going to go through some of my favorite preparatory poses to get ready to do dancer. We're going to warm up and strengthen the back, the shoulders, and the core. And then once we're done, we're going to move into our full expression of dancer pose together. Let's get started. So before we get started doing any yoga at all, my favorite thing to do is a classic sun salutation or Surya Namaskar A. So I'm going to take you through that now, and then we're going to move on to our warm-up poses for dancer. So we're going to start in child's pose. And then from child's pose, we're going to move up to downward facing dog. And since this is our first downward dog, make sure you take any movements that feel good in the hips. You can bend one knee and then the other. You can sway your hips side to side. We want to start warming up the legs a little bit too, so we're going to go ahead and lift one leg and then the other. You don't have to push it. You don't have to go to your full range of motion on this first leg extension. And then take the other leg into the air. Now, once you're back in downward facing dog, you're gonna roll the spine forward and find a high plank. And then from high plank, lower all the way down to the mat. Push through the hands, breathe in, cobra. And then send the hips back to the heels, back to child's pose. That was a gentle little sun salutation. We're gonna do one more. And this time, instead of doing cobra, which was one of our last poses, we're gonna do upward facing dog to start activating the muscles in the back a little bit more. We're gonna go down to child's pose. Find downward facing dog, and we'll stay here for a couple breaths. So if you're familiar with yoga, you'll notice that in these sun salutations, I'm not doing the standing part where we do a standing forward fold and raise our arms to the sky. We're gonna stay grounded for the first part of this warm up, and then later, once we work on our balancing, we're gonna stand up as we get ready for dancer pose. And find yourself in downward facing dog. Once you're in down dog, stay here for a couple breaths again. Make sure you're taking nice, deep, long inhales and full exhales. On an inhale, roll the spine forward, high plank. Lower down to chaturanga this time. Hover over the mat, flip your feet over, and then push your chest up toward the sky, upward facing dog. Send the hips up and back, push through the hands, downward facing dog. And then from down dog, step the feet forward to the hands, forward fold. Take as much time as you want in your forward fold. This is my first forward fold of the day, so I'm gonna hang out for a second. You can grab opposite elbows and let your head and your neck hang heavy. Maybe sway side to side a little bit. Once you feel good there, put the hands down, step back to a high plank. Lower, all the way down to the mat. All right, we're gonna do our first official warm-up pose for dancer, and we're starting on our belly. So the first thing that we're gonna do, we actually already did during sun salutation A, which is cobra, but we're gonna do it with a little bit more intentionality now. So starting prone on your mat, make sure your knees and your ankles and your toes are knit tightly together. Put your fingertips by your chest, kind of right underneath your shoulders. So this bend is really coming from the low back. We're really engaging the back muscles here. We're not pressing ourselves up through the hands. One more repetition of cobra pose before we move on to our next back strengthening warm up. Exhale, lower. You can push the hips back toward the heels, take a child's pose. You probably feel those back muscles engaging. And in child's pose, if you want extra relief in the low back, you can separate the knees, keep the toes together, and let the chest and the belly fall between the knees. All right, now we're going to do locust pose. Locust pose is similar to cobra pose, except we're totally levitating off the ground at this point. Only our belly's gonna stay and our hip bones are gonna stay on the ground. So back down we go. And we're not gonna do as many repetitions of locust. We're just gonna do 2 because this one requires a lot of strength. Inhale, lift. And exhale, lower. And on your inhale, lift up. 5, 4, 3, 2, and lower. Awesome. And we're gonna come up onto our knees for our next warm up. This one's gonna be camel pose. So camel pose, you're gonna stand up onto your knees, flip your toes over so that your heels are a little bit more elevated for you. You're gonna put your hands together at your heart. Inhale, start to tip back, and you can let one hand and then the other find your ankles. And then you can return your hips to your heels and sit back down on your heels. Take a couple deep breaths to let any tension out of the back, relax your muscles. And we're gonna go again, up onto the knees, hands by the heart, and send it back. Now this time I untucked my toes to go a little bit deeper. And then something else for your second repetition, if you can, for a little challenge, take one hand over the top of the head, reach it back. And then you can swap for the other. And if you're feeling really saucy, you can do both at the same time. Bring your hands to your heart, set your hips down. All right. Now, how does your back feel? Mine feels pretty good. We're gonna start warming up the hips and the core. The hips and the core are intricately intertwined, and we're gonna pay attention to our core when we start opening up the hips right now. So the first thing that we're gonna do is a lunge with the knee down on the mat. Now, once you're up in this position, just let your hips sink. Try to knit your low ribs in. We have the tendency to wanna just like drop into the pelvic bowl and let the ribs come out. You wanna knit them in, keep your core nice and strong. And once you're here, you can lift your arms up overhead. Now you can bring the hands down. We're gonna switch legs. All right, return both knees to the center of the mat. We're gonna do a little bit of shoulder warm-up intermission. Sit your hips down. All right, so this is one of my favorite ways to warm up the shoulders specifically for dancer because, well, I'm gonna turn sideways to explain this to you. The shoulder girdle is everything that's happening right here. You want to open it up, but what we don't want to happen is for the elbow to splay out when you open it up. Because for dancer, we want to keep everything nice and aligned in this central line of engagement. So we're gonna try to open up the shoulders without letting anything splay out of alignment. So how we're gonna do that, take one arm, lift it up, bend the elbow, bring the hand back, and then see if you can reach right here. If you can't reach, a nifty hack is to grab your shirt or your sports bra or whatever you've got on, and then use that to bring your hands closer. But ideally, if you've got nice open shoulders, you should be able to link your fingers right here. No big deal if you can't though. And we're gonna swap around. Unbind the shoulders. We're gonna get a little bit deeper into our hip warm up, and then we're gonna hit dancer pose. We're almost ready. So from here, we're gonna do half pigeon. This is a pose that a lot of us know just as athletes. Anybody who might wanna warm up the hips or be nice to the hamstrings is gonna know half pigeon. You're gonna take your shin, bring it parallel or as parallel as you can to the front of the mat, and then send the other leg back. Right now, we're in half pigeon. Now from here, if we want to get really nice and warmed up for dancer, we're gonna do king pigeon pose. This is one of the most beautiful yoga poses in my opinion, at least of the variety that warms up your hips nice and good. So bend your back leg. You can just grab this foot, or if you've got a lot of room here, you can flip your grip and then bring the foot to the head. When you're through, let that go. And we're gonna switch to king pigeon. half pigeon on the other side. Bring your front shin parallel to the front edge of the mat. Spend some time getting deep in the hips there. And then if you want to go for the full expression here, you can reach back to the foot. And if you're feeling nice and limber, you can flip your grip, king pigeon. All right. All right, now I feel pretty warmed up. Let's get ready for dancer. We're gonna stand up now. And before we do anything, let's take a cleansing little forward fold. Wiggle out the hips, wiggle out the shoulders. Should feel super nice. Release any tension in the low back. And then we're gonna roll up to stand, one vertebrae at a time. Let your body roll all the way up. And here we are. Let's get ready for dancer. So we're just gonna do like one balance pose to warm up our balancing capabilities, and that is going to be tree pose. So we're gonna stand central on our mat. In order to balance, we really wanna spread all four corners of the feet. So big toe, little toe, both sides of the heel. Make sure you're nice and planted. Pick whichever leg you'd like to start on. Bring your hands to your heart and the other leg to the inside of your shin or your quad. We'll stay here for 5 breaths. All right, switch legs, spread your toes, plant your foot, set the other one up, tree pose. All right, so now let's get fully set up for dancer pose. Start on whichever foot is your dominant foot, just because this is a balance pose that requires a lot of motion. So let's start with our steady side. There's 2 ways to do dancer pose. One of them is more advanced and one of them is more approachable. And we're gonna start with the more approachable variation. So the grasp for dancer pose, you're gonna take your open palm, you're gonna kick your leg up and find your shin. Once you find your shin, bring your hand forward and tip forward while kicking your shin into your hand, like a scale. You should be creating a counterbalance in your body. And the more you kick into your hand, the higher your leg should rise until you find the limits of your range of motion. And set it down. And we're gonna move on to the other side. And set it down. Now I'm gonna show you the hardest way to do dancer pose, the full expression of dancer pose with the flipped grip, fully open shoulders. Let's get into it. So this version of dancer, you're going to flip your palm up and flex your foot so you can get a hold of it. So I'm gonna show you what I mean. Like that. You're making a little hook and you're grabbing your foot. Might even be easiest for you to see like this. Little slot for your foot. So I'm gonna go ahead and grab that way. Once I get one foot, I'm gonna bring it up as high as I can, reach over my head, and make contact with the other hand. All right, other side. All right, that felt really good, but we need to make sure we cool down after a good warm up and our hardest pose. Let's rest a little bit. We're gonna do a full body twist. So lay yourself down on the mat, supine position, bring both knees in toward your chest. You're gonna go ahead and cross one leg over top of the other and then send the knees in the direction of whichever leg is on the bottom. Take the arms out to a T and gaze in the opposite direction as your knees. After some big restorative cleansing breaths in this pose, bring your knees back up to center. Take the cross out of your legs, cross in the other direction. Let your knees fall to the opposite side and gaze in the other direction as well. Once you've taken a couple big breaths in your twist, bring your knees back to center again. You can uncross your legs, bring your knees in toward your chest, let them fall, to the side into a little fetal position, and then bring yourself up to your seat to conclude our practice together today. All right, you guys, that was super fun. I love coming on here and teaching you my favorite poses, all the little tips and tricks I have about yoga. Thank you for learning dancer pose with me today. Thank you for coming and watching my channel. Again, I'm Charlotte. My channel is Coco Yogi. That's my main OF. Feel free to hit me up, ask me questions about yoga, and I just love to chat. I'm here all the time. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.